You've heard the announcements, you've seen the headlines. Donald Trump is rolling out his most aggressive plans yet on immigration and law enforcement. He's promising the largest domestic deportation operation in American history. But beyond the rallies and the official statements, the real question is, what does this actually mean for your daily life, your town, and your constitutional rights? The plans being put on the table are massive and complicated, and they aim to reshape the very fabric of American life. They go way beyond the border, reaching into cities and towns all across the country. In the next few minutes, we're going to break down the 3 key ways these new policies could directly impact you. We'll dig into what the administration says it wants to do, how they're planning to do it, and what the potential fallout could be for every American. This isn't just about politics, it's about understanding the real, tangible changes that could be coming. So what could this all mean for you, on the ground, in your community? Well, the core of the new domestic policy is a major shakeup in how your local police work with the federal government. The plan calls for the mass deportation of millions of undocumented immigrants. To pull this off, the White House is turning to a powerful and controversial tool, getting state and local police to enforce federal immigration laws. This is mostly being done by massively expanding the 287G program, a part of the Immigration and Nationality Act that lets the Department of Homeland Security make agreements with local police departments. A key part of the plan is to sign an executive order that would dramatically grow this program. Since the end of last year, the number of these active agreements has already more than tripled as of this spring. Here's how it works. Under these agreements, specially trained local cops get the power to ask people about their immigration status, check federal databases, and even start the deportation process themselves. The administration is bringing back what's known as the task force model, which was mostly shelved over a decade ago after it was accused of leading to racial profiling. This model lets officers ask about immigration status during routine stuff like a traffic stop. This fundamentally changes the job of your local police. For years, police chiefs have been stuck between cooperating with the feds and worrying that doing so destroys the community trust they need to keep people safe. Many big city police chiefs have argued that mixing local policing with federal immigration enforcement is a huge mistake because it makes immigrant communities afraid to report crimes or step up as witnesses. The administration is also putting a ton of pressure on sanctuary cities, places that limit how much they help federal immigration agents. Policy blueprints like Project 2025 lay out plans to punish states and cities that don't play ball, possibly by pulling federal funding or forcing them to share sensitive info, like DMV records. This sets up a direct clash between local policies and federal orders, with your community's police department caught right in the middle. The stated goal is clear: use every tool, including local police, to build a nationwide deportation machine. What are your thoughts on this? Do you think local police should be involved in federal immigration enforcement? Let us know respectfully in the comments below. Next, let's look at what these policies could mean for your constitutional rights. This is where the new plans raise some of the deepest and most difficult questions for everyone, citizens and non-citizens alike. A key part of the strategy is the widespread use of expedited removal. Think of it as a fast-track deportation process that's normally just used near the border. The plan is to let Immigration and Customs Enforcement, or ICE, use it against immigrants found anywhere in the country. Critics argue this raises serious red flags about due process because it allows for lightning-fast deportations, often without a full hearing in front of a judge. And the very act of deputizing local police through these 287G agreements brings constitutional questions right to your doorstep. Multiple courts have ruled that when local police hold someone based on an ICE detainer, which is just a request to hold someone, not a warrant, they can violate the Fourth Amendment's protection against illegal searches and seizures. That's because these detainers are basically administrative paperwork, not a judicial warrant signed by a judge, and they often don't have the probable cause needed for an arrest. As local police get more involved, they open up their departments and local taxpayers to major lawsuits for potential civil rights violations. There are also proposals to use the military for domestic law enforcement in ways we've never seen before. Plans have been outlined that include moving thousands of troops to the southern border, possibly using the U.S. Navy for a maritime blockade, and even using military planes for deportation flights. Talk of using laws like the Insurrection Act to let federal troops make arrests on U.S. soil raises serious legal questions about the military's role at home. The proposals go even further, with talk of targeting people based on their beliefs. Trump has discussed implementing strong ideological screening for immigrants and revoking student visas for those who express views the administration considers anti-American. There's even been talk of sending agents to protests to spot non-citizens for removal. This push has civil liberties advocates on high alert as they see it as a scary step toward policing thought and speech, things normally protected by the First Amendment. These measures, from fast-track removals that skip court hearings to using local police and military for arrests, are all designed to create a super efficient and far-reaching enforcement system. But they also push the limits of executive power and challenge the legal protections that are the foundation of our justice system. The central conflict is whether this aggressive enforcement will come at the cost of the due process that's supposed to protect everyone. Beyond the legal and community impacts, these policies are projected to send major shockwaves through the country's economy and social fabric. The sheer size of the ambition here is matched only by the size of the potential consequences. Let's start with the price tag. The administration is asking for huge sums of money. One proposal requests $175 billion over the next 4 years to build more detention centers and hire more ICE agents. Some analyses estimate that a one-time mass deportation operation could cost taxpayers over $300 billion. This is a gigantic expense that would pull money away from other national priorities. According to numerous economic analyses, the impact of removing millions of people from the country would be devastating. One study projected that a policy of mass deportation would slash the nation's GDP by $4.7 trillion over a decade. Another found that it could shrink the economy by as much as 7.4% by 2028. To put that in perspective, the entire U.S. economy shrank by 4.3% during the Great Recession. And that isn't just an abstract number. It would translate to severe labor shortages in key industries. Projections suggest mass deportations could lead to losing 1.5 million workers in construction, 1 million in hospitality, and almost 250,000 in agriculture. These shortages would likely mean higher prices for everyone and could spark inflation, with one analysis projecting prices could jump by over 9% by 2028. Contrary to the idea that removing immigrant workers would open up jobs for American-born workers, multiple studies suggest the opposite could happen. Research on past large-scale deportations has found that they actually led to job losses and lower wages for native-born workers, as businesses shrink and the whole economy slows down. One study projected that if 4 million people were deported over 4 years, it would lead to 2.6 million fewer jobs for U.S.-born workers. The child care sector could be hit especially hard, creating a crisis for working parents. The social costs are just as stark. Mass deportation would directly harm millions of U.S. citizens. A huge number of undocumented residents live in mixed-status families, meaning their spouses and kids are U.S. citizens. Removing a parent or spouse would throw millions of American families into poverty, with one analysis showing it would cut their median household income nearly in half. It would also rock the housing market, as an estimated 1.2 million households with undocumented members are paying off mortgages. So, what's the bottom line here? What could this new era of aggressive policy really mean for you? First, the job of your local police could fundamentally change. Through programs like 287G, cops in your town could start acting like federal immigration agents, creating a brand new and tense dynamic with the public they're supposed to serve. Second, it raises huge questions about our constitutional rights. The expansion of fast-track deportations and the use of administrative detainers test the limits of due process, while proposals to use the military for domestic arrests blur a line that has long been a bedrock of American democracy. And third, the economic and social fallout is projected to be enormous. Far from being a surgical strike, a mass deportation campaign could act like a wrecking ball to the U.S. economy, shrinking our GDP, killing millions of jobs for all workers, and ripping apart families and communities. These are not small adjustments. They represent a carefully laid out plan to remake the country. The stated goal is to boost national security and restore sovereignty. The potential result, however, could be a nation struggling with major economic disruption, legal chaos, and deep social division. The ultimate takeaway is this: these policies won't happen in a bubble. Their effects will ripple out from the border to the heartland, touching industries, communities, and the lives of millions of American citizens. In the face of such sweeping change, the most powerful tool you have is knowledge. Stay informed, understand the facts, and be part of the conversation. If you found this breakdown helpful, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss our future analyses. And check out our other video on the administration's new energy policies right over here. Thanks for watching.